Chapter 10 A False Prince. A long silence followed Connor's announcement. This was worse than my darkest suspicions of why Connor might have taken us, and I was at a complete loss for what to do next. At best, the plan was lunacy, and at least it was treason, no matter how forcibly Connor denied it. No sane person could hope to turn an orphan into a prince in 2 weeks. And a person would have to be even crazier to think that this orphan could then convince an entire court he was a long lost prince. Tobias politely voiced these same concerns, but was waved off by Connor, who asked, "Do you always think small, boy?" Tobias swallowed. "No, sir." "Do you think this is too ambitious?" I just. Tobias found his courage. "It seemed like what you want would be impossible." "Nothing's impossible. I haven't come to this plan lightly or without a great deal of thought. But to succeed, I must have a boy who believes this can happen." "I believe it," Roden said. I snorted. Connor turned to me. "You don't believe it's possible?" "Just because it's possible doesn't mean it's wise." With arched eyebrows, Connor said, "And you claim to have this wisdom?" "I claim to have nothing, sir." "This is a good starting place. Now, Tobias, stand up." Tobias stood, looking as nervous as if he were about to be asked the one most important question in the world, and he had no answer. As it turned out, Connor planned on doing all the talking. Connor said, "You have the right shade of hair. The face is a little narrower than I would have expected for the prince, but the resemblance has potential. Your height is acceptable, and build is trim, like the queen's. I like that you have education, but you are not as quick a thinker as I would want. If someone were to question you with an answer you did not know, I fear you might hesitate and spoil the plan." Tobias reacted to Connor's assessment like he'd been punched. I couldn't understand why it bothered him so much. None of what Connor said were things Tobias had any control over, and it wasn't like Connor would find anyone he considered a perfect candidate. "Next," Connor ordered Roden to stand. "Less of a resemblance to the prince when he was last seen, but a strong resemblance to the queen's family. So we may convince people of your identity. Your ambition and determination is admirable, though you often lack confidence when necessary. You are completely uneducated, which may also prove a problem. However, you're physically strong, which will give you an advantage with the sword and on horseback." Connor told him he could sit. But Roden remained standing and said, "Sir, now that I know what is you're seeking, I can make myself into this prince." "Sit," Connor repeated, unimpressed by Roden's pleas. He nodded his head at me, and I stood. "You have the entirely wrong color of hair, though we might color it over with a proper dye. You show a preference for the left hand when it absolutely must be the right. Nor are you as tall or strong as one might expect the son of King Egbert. You look the youngest of the three boys, though any of you will have to lie about your exact age. How are you at learning accents?" "You ask if I can learn a Carthian accent in 2 weeks?" I asked. "You cannot claim the throne of Carthia was sounding like an avian." "It doesn't matter," I said. "I don't want the throne. Choose Roden or Tobias, or I'll leave and go where you'll never see me again." Connor's face twisted in anger. "Do you think I care a devil's inch what you want? You are here because, despite a few physical setbacks, you have seeds of the personality I might expect the Prince Jaron. If we can weed out your bad manners and defiant nature, I suspect you could convince the nobles that you are him." "If you weed those out, then there's nothing left of me," I said. "You strip those away and find I'm as boring as Tobias or predictable as Roden. Why don't you take the physical similarities to the prince and give them a personality?" It was a rhetorical question. I didn't actually think either of them could adopt a personality. "Prince Jaron was a fighter," Connor said. "You've done nothing but fight since we met. And if you try to use me for this fraud, Then I'll continue fighting. I said, "You don't want a prince, you want a puppet. You've taken on this plan in secret. Why? Maybe you can't sit on the throne, but you plan to rule from behind it. Put Rodin on the throne. He'll happily let you guide his arms and feed him with the words he should say next. I won't." "Lower your voice," Connor said. "I have no intention of ruling. Of course, at the end of 2 weeks, none of you will know enough about ruling to take on alone. I will be there to guide you as an advisor, protect you, to guard our secret. When you are ready to rule alone, I will serve in any capacity you choose for me." Connor held out a hand to me. "I'm offering to make you the son of Carthia, brighter than the moon and the stars combined, and you will take the throne, knowing that you have pulled your country back from the brink of war. How can you refuse this opportunity, Sage?" "Carthia is not my country," I said, reaching for the doors to leave. "Frankly, I hope Avena destroys it."